British screenwriter and film director Terence Davies has died aged 77 following a short illness, his manager has said. Davies established himself on the cinematic map in the late 1970s and early 1980s with his trilogy of autobiographical films titled Children, Madonna and Child, Death, and Transfiguration, and went on to make 9 more feature films. Most recently, Slow Horses starred Jack Lowden, and Doctor Who's Peter Capaldi led his Netflix drama Benediction, based on the life of English poet Siegfried Sassoon, also starring late actor Julian Sands. Manager John Taylor said in a statement given to the PA news agency, "I am deeply saddened to announce the death of Terence Davies, who died peacefully at home in his sleep after a short illness on Saturday, October 7, 2023. The statement added the Latin words umbra sumus from poet Horace and an extract from British writer Christina Rossetti's poem titled When I Am Dead, My Dearest, both of which had significance to Davies. Born in Liverpool, Davies worked as a clerk in a shipping office and a bookkeeper in an accountancy firm for 10 years before enrolling at the Coventry Drama School in 1973. In 1988, the filmmaker won the Cannes International Critics Prize for Distant Voices, Still Lives, a film drawn from his own family memories of a working-class life in 1940s and 1950s Liverpool. A host of famous faces have also starred in his films, including sex education star Gillian Anderson, who played socialite Lily Bart in Davies' 2000 adaptation of Edith Wharton's The House of Mirth, while Oscar winner Rachel Weisz played Hester Collier in Davies' 2011 adaptation of Terence Rattigan's 1952 play The Deep Blue Sea, about a forbidden love and the fear of loneliness. British model and actress Aegis Dane played Chris Guthrie in his 2015 adaptation of Lewis Grassic Gibbon's Sunset Song, about her journey from schoolgirl to womanhood and motherhood to widowhood, set after the First World War. And in 2016, Sex and the City star Cynthia Nixon played 19th-century poet Emily Dickinson in A Quiet Passion, written and directed by Davies. Rapper 21 Savage plans to perform in his native London after being cleared to travel outside the U.S. The rapper's lawyer, Charles Cook, said that his client has officially become a permanent U.S. resident and may now go overseas. He cleared a major traveling hurdle after being taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents in Georgia in 2019. Mr. Cook said the Grammy-nominated artist had followed all applicable immigration laws since his initial detention by ICE. His immigration court proceedings have now been terminated, and he is a lawful permanent resident of the United States with the freedom to travel internationally, Mr. Cook said. The 30-year-old rapper spent 10 days in a detention center in southern Georgia before his release. He was arrested in a targeted operation over his visa, which expired in 2006. The Atlanta-based rapper said he had no idea what a visa was when his mother brought him to the U.S. at 7 years old. He said in an interview in 2019 that immigrants like him who lived in America illegally as children should automatically become U.S. citizens. He said the visa application process discourages many immigrants who do not have documents because it hangs over your head forever. The rapper made his announcement about returning to London via social media, but did not give details. Sir Steve McQueen has defended the length of his new 4-hour documentary, which tracks how life was in Amsterdam under Nazi occupation. Titled Occupied City, the film seeks to collide past and present as it explores this period in the Second World War alongside moments from recent years of the pandemic and protests. The project is based on a book by his wife, Dutch director Bianca Stichter, titled Atlas of an Occupied City, Amsterdam 1940 to 1945. Sir Steve, who lives in Amsterdam with his family, told the PA news agency at the London Film Festival on Thursday, "I think an hour and a half wouldn't do it a service. And what the time is, it's time reflecting on something which, in effect, could have been 24 hours long, could have been 40 hours long. And therefore, you have a situation where we did the best we could with what we had in order to translate this urgent and immediate situation, which happened over 85 years ago. Stichter added that the length is a necessary ingredient of the film to convey its messages. I think what it stresses is the film is not a history lesson. It's an experience that you are wandering through this town in the present and in the past for 4 hours, she explained. And if you had made it shorter, you could not get to that point. The film looks at 130 locations in present-day Amsterdam that relate to the Jewish community before and during the Nazi occupation of the city, while Melanie Hyams and the film anthology Small Axe revealed that the project did not initially start as an adaptation of Stichter's book, but as an idea that he wanted to create a piece that looked at past and present footage. But what happened was, when Bianca was writing the book, I realized, wow, maybe the past could be text and the present could be, as we have it now. So they put the two together, and narration and images of the present could be the way to do it. So it was one of those things that just fell into place. Asked if he felt the project was perfect, Sir Steve replied, "Perfect in my mind. Extraordinary perfect. It's genius. Exquisite. Of course it is." Stichter added that the documentary was a unique experience for her, as she noted that they have a personal connection to some of the locations in the film, such as where their children went to school. Maryland's Supreme Court has scrutinized a hearing last year that vacated Adnan Syed's murder conviction and released him after 23 years behind bars, as the victim's family said they were not given adequate opportunity to take part in the proceedings. Chronicled in the hit podcast serial, the case has been fraught with legal twists and divided court rulings for years. The oral arguments that took place on Thursday before Maryland's highest court were no exception. Among the issues discussed were whether Mrs. Syed's 2000 murder conviction should be reinstated after an appellate court decision in March, and the extent to which Maryland crime victims have a right to participate in hearings on whether to vacate a conviction. Ultimately, his freedom hangs in the balance. The panel of 7 justices will release their ruling in the coming weeks or months. Outside the courthouse after the hearing, Mr. Syed said he was looking forward to the court's decision. While maintaining his innocence from the start, he has often expressed concern for the family of Ha Min Lee, his high school ex-girlfriend, who was found strangled to death and buried in an unmarked grave in 1999. "We believe very strongly in trying to find justice for Ha and her family," he told reporters, "and we're hoping also that we're able to find justice for us too." He attended the hearing flanked by family members, including his mother and younger brother. Mr. Syed, 42, was released from prison in September 2022 when a Baltimore judge overturned his conviction. City prosecutors had dropped all charges after finding flaws in the evidence. However, in March, the Appellate Court of Maryland ordered a new hearing. The court said the victim's family did not receive adequate notice to attend the hearing in person, violating their right to be treated with dignity and respect. The family also appealed to the state's highest court, contending that crime victims in Maryland have a right to be heard and challenge evidence in hearings like the one last year that vacated Mr. Syed's conviction from 2000. This case is not about Mr. Syed's underlying innocence or guilt. That dispute is simply not in the room today, said Ari Rubin, a lawyer for the Lee family, during Thursday's arguments. He said the issue was whether the rights of Ha Min Lee's brother, Young Lee, were violated when a judge vacated Mr. Syed's conviction without conducting a substantive hearing where victims were allowed to challenge the evidence presented. The process of vacating a conviction is extraordinary in that it aligns the interests of the defendant and the state, Mr. Rubin said, arguing that victims and their lawyers should fulfill an adversarial role in such proceedings. Depending on the outcome of the appeal, Mr. Syed faces at least the potential of being sent back to prison, a point his lawyers raised in recent court filings. The terrifying specter of reincarceration has hung over Mr. Syed's head every day for the past 10 months, lawyer Erica Suter wrote in a brief filed with the court in August. The case could also have significant consequences for victims' rights, Although the appellate court ruled that Lee's brother did not get sufficient notice to attend the hearing that vacated Mr. Syed's conviction, the court also said state law does not guarantee crime victims a right to be heard during such hearings. That decision falls to the presiding judge. Allowing victims to present evidence or otherwise engage substantively would result in a huge shift in practice, the judges said. During oral arguments on Thursday, N's suitor told the court the state met its obligation in allowing young Lee to participate in the hearing. Mr. Lee was heard, and his counsel was heard because prosecutors decided not to charge him again after his conviction was vacated. And even if young Lee's rights were violated, he has not demonstrated whether the alleged violation would have changed the hearing's outcome, the lawyers say. Mr. Lee, who ended up speaking remotely at the vacatur hearing, was notified on a Friday afternoon that it would take place the following Monday. That was insufficient time to reasonably allow Mr. Lee, who lived in California, to attend the hearing in person. The appellate court ruled in March. Lawyers for the Lee family have criticized a lack of transparency as well in the court proceedings that led to Mr. Syed's release. Min Lee's murder has been at issue in Maryland's courts for nearly a generation. David Sanford, a lawyer for the family, wrote in a court filing last month. He argued the state Supreme Court should send the case to another judge to decide whether to vacate the conviction. The careers of Irish rugby squad captain Johnny Sexton and Henry Shefflin have seen them reach transcendental heights and some deep lows, all the while driving their teammates on. They tell Richie Sadlier what has driven them to keep going. Driven is a new 5-part series of conversations with Johnny Sexton. Produced by Laya Healthcare, the show explores the power of uncompromising self-belief. The host, former footballer Richie Sadlier, sits down with well-known personalities from the world of Irish sport to discuss the importance of trusting yourself. In it, he unpicks how each develops the drive needed to propel themselves to the top of their game. The series includes pro golfer Leona Maguire, All-Ireland winner and Ladies National Football League title holder Cora Staunton, and U20's Grand Slam coach Mark Sexton, Johnny's older brother, who all offer their thoughts and insights. Launching this week is Episode 3, which features a very open conversation between Laya brand ambassador and captain of the Irish rugby squad, Johnny Sexton, and Henry Shefflin, leaders who brought similar energy and leadership to their fields. It's very hard to pinpoint. How you're brought up is a huge part of it, wanting to do the best you can at whatever you do. That was essentially the message driven into me from my parents. If you're going to do something, you do it properly. Definitely, yeah. The moments in the dressing room, the moments with your family, all of those, it's the sense of achievement. But when it started, we weren't always successful. I was driven when I didn't know what success felt like. I was obsessed with Sir Alex Ferguson, Roy Keane, obsessed with teams that won consecutively. Anyone can win once, but how can you win 5, 6, 7 times? How can you stay at the top? That's what I've been attracted to. When you first break into a team, many don't really think about self-belief. They just go with it. Would you have been like that? In some ways, I kind of came onto the scene, and then went off the scene, then came back. Gordon Darcy broke his arm, which meant that Felipe Contepomi went to 12, and I played 10. And we had a great year. I pretty much played the full season, number 10 for that campaign. We won the league. But the following season they signed Izaniswa, who can play 10. Contepomi is now back at 10 because Gordon Darcy is back from injury, and suddenly now I'm third choice, and I was sent back to St. Mary's to play club rugby. I was angry. I was frustrated. I learned a lot of lessons. They gave me a couple of chances at 10 that year, but because I had Felipe and Isa to compete with, I was like, okay, I'm going to show that I can do all the things that they can do. And I got away from what I was good at, which was trying to manage the game and trying to bring in other players around me. I was trying to do things that I couldn't. And that's what got me dropped. I learned a lot from that. I don't think my self-belief ever wavered, but I was always worried about what other people thought. Michael Chika was the coach. He doesn't think I'm good enough. But I'll show him. You know what I mean. That was my mentality. It was very tough to take. I desperately wanted to go. I'd been to Australia and New Zealand, and then, to finish it off with your last appearance for the Lions, would complete the set. I thought I should have gone. I was gutted. It really knocked me. But it kind of refueled me for the last couple of years. I think teams now are allowing you to be more vulnerable and to open up a bit more, but you have to have a forum to do it. So the coach needs to go. How's everyone going? Now you'd like to think someone can go and say they're really struggling at the moment, or they're nervous, or they're anxious about the pressures.